How we doing, guys? So I'm going to break down the sample Opium from my pack levels. It's perfect for Brent Faiyaz, Scissor, Summer Walker. We're at 97 BPM, okay, guys, which is a good tempo for this kind of chilled R&B. Now, the first sound that I brought up was from the MELLOTRON. I love this plugin for vintage R&B samples. I mean, it sounds good initially straight off the bat. I'm going to stick the chord progression up on screen for you guys now, but safe to say that it's an R&B, standard R&B progression, and all I've done is use like extended chords, so major nines, minor 7s, and some dominant chords, altered dominant chords as well. I'm going to do a whole video on the theory behind this in the future, so stay tuned for that. And then all I've done is on bar 5, I've just started to kind of develop the chords a little bit more with just a few simple notes to add a little bit more variation, because I never like to keep things just like so that they sound like they're looping. I want to just make them constantly evolving, which is the way you want to do it as well, because you've got to catch the listener's ear. There's so many different samples around now, so many beats around now. You really want them to stand out, and melody is your secret weapon to make, well, it's not even a secret, but it's a weapon to help you do that. And then at the end, bar 8, I've just got this little walk down, which I'm just going to play for you. Now you're going to notice that the key is different from what it was initially, and that's because on the master bus I've got a sound shifter that I have disabled right now, but I love the texture that gives when I change the key of the sample, and I do that all the time. So we're going to get into that later when we look at the master bus, but don't worry about that now. So I've got a whole heap of processing on this channel. Let's have a little look. So the first thing is this spring reverb, which is a vintage reverb that I just think sounds great on almost anything. I've got the level set quite high on this, but I like the way it sounded. The next plugin, Lossy, always works well for vintage samples. Good Hertz are a great company. If you don't know about Wolf Compressor and about Lossy, then get to know. They're excellent. Sorry if it's crapping out a bit. My CPU's just not having it right now. So let's just close this down for now. And brought the halftime in. You all know about halftime, but again, it just adds a little bit of subtle low end vibe to the sound. Just got the mix set quite low, and this is just, I think I just left this exactly how it was. Now this is probably doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and the computer might crap out when I start it, but let's have a look. I love Shaperbox. It is literally like an amazing plugin for all kinds of different effects. On this particular sound, I'm making it move every bar from right to left, and movement is something I think in samples can just keep things interesting, holds the attention of the listener, and I'm using it here on this main sound. Portal, I am using a little bit of just a Magic Portal sound on so low, probably not doing much at all. And then the real EQ, which is just literally shaping that sound right down into a thin band in the middle, which is just leaving space for everything else. Obviously, you know, we all know about the RC20. Again, a little bit of wobble, a little bit of distortion, a little bit of magnetic. On the vinyl one, just literally when you bring the plugin up, that's what comes on straight. And then taming a few little peaks here with Soothe 2. Now, what I did then was I bounced that out, because I find audio, once you commit to audio, it's there, it's done. You can't go back, and I love that. I love just having something to work with that you know is going to be there. You can't just, oh, I don't like it. You know, you're committing, and to me, that's a really good thing to do. Now, this is a really cool trick that I want to show you that I love to do with my samples. So once I bounced that down, what I did now was I chopped that sound on every bar, and I pulled in the start time and the end time to give an effect of it almost being like a sample in itself. I hear a lot of the top guys, Nami, Coop the Truthful, doing this kind of thing, and it just, again, it kind of gives a really nice bounce to the sound. It's subtle, but I think it works really well, again, to do that. Now, the next thing I added is the bass. Now, my bass lines, I love to add a lot of note between. So let's look at this. No processing whatsoever, just using the Scarby Rickenbacker on the palm muted setting, double date palm muted. I love this setting, I use it all the time. Literally, I just leveled this off and left it as was. I thought it just sounded great as it was. And my whole thing is, I like to have bass lines that feel like a bass player's playing them, rather than just like static notes. And root notes are cool, like notes are cool, but I really like to fill the space in between all of the and what I just like to do is just kind of, I know it sounds silly, I just sing what I want to play in between the space of the sample. So it's like boom, dum, dum, doo 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 dum 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 dum. And I find that when I sing it and then I work out the notes on the bass or on the keyboard, I draw them in and I'm like, okay, that worked. The next sound that I added, I think, is a really, really interesting, it's almost like an ear candy sound. Really subtle little flute kind of trills. That's what you call them, I guess, trills. And again, you're going to see a lot of the same plugins that I use over and over again. So on these flutes, just started with an EQ, and I just wanted to really focus in on that kind of high mid sound. I felt like that would be a complementary sound to the more lower vibes and bass sound. Now you can hear that together. They're interesting, right? I'll show you what I've put on here after the EQ, just an RC20, and this time I'm using the Vinyl 3, which is, you know, tried and tested preset. Love it. Lossy again, a bit more harsh on the lossy here. I really wanted to really crap out this sound and make it really, really sound kind of vintage on this one. Gone for the Infinite Dark and Dirty, which is in the Feedbackers preset. Love this plugin. All the Soundtoy stuff is just brilliant for vintage vibes and that kind of thing. Portal again, as I said, you're going to see over and over again. Now I love this Time Traveler. Subtle, but enough to just give me a nice little bit of feedback on my flutes. Now, moving on to the next sound. Cool. We start to get into some really interesting stuff here, which is the pianos. Now, I would have just copied the MIDI over onto the piano, and I was using the Labs soft piano. Again, if you don't know about it, it's free. You want to pick this up. It's a brilliant piano. I use it all the time in all my samples. Again, you're going to see that this was the initial piano, and then I took it up here and put some other effects on it. And initially it would have just been an RC20, shaper box again, this time not doing any panning, but just volume automation, quite subtle, like almost a sidechain sucking effect on the beginning of the bar for the piano. Vintage verb, we all know and love, classic reverb there. Another EQ, I do quite a lot of harsh EQing on my sounds, but I do more cutting than boosting. I hardly ever boost, really, to be fair. I don't know, I just don't really like the sound of boosting, and I find that most of the top guys, TGO, all these guys, never really boost. They just cut, and there's a reason for that, you know. So these pianos, you can hear. I'm sticking this sound shifter on it. So I wanted the piano to be more of a kind of a textural thing, because I had the vibes playing quite the low MIDI sort of sound. So I added in this piano, and I really wanted that to fill up that high end sparkly kind of texture. And then I'm making this one even more sparkly, this piano here, using this Autochrome, which is a really, really sick plugin. It almost does what the Therme, I've got the Therme pedal, it can do similar things to what the pedals. It's a granular effects plugin. If you don't know about it, check it out. And this is just the initial preset that when you throw it on, I just thought it sounded good, so I kept that on there. And my bus, okay, yeah, let's look at this quickly. So I'm just literally bussing over to a mono, and also this is another little trick, panning my reverb, which is a Abbey Road plate, over to the one side, which I just thought sounded cool. You know, I don't know, sometimes I just make these decisions in the spur of the moment and they just work. So the next sound after the pianos is this lead coming from Serum. and really cool sound from the QAPT. She makes great plugins, and I love them and use them all the time. Just really like this lead. It gave me a kind of a West Coast lead sort of flavor. And as you can see, yep, what have we got again? We've got RC20, shaper box. This time I'm panning again on the bar. Vintage verb, you can see that there. And an EQ, a little bit of boost. You know, I did say I don't like to boost. Occasionally I will boost. So what have we got so far? If I play everything, we've got this. So we're nearly there, really. If we look at the next, my favorite. I just love these voices. They sound amazing. Now, I'm not blessed with a good voice, but this plugin, I think Harvey actually turned me onto this, and this is the East West Hollywood Backup Singers. Now, these are they just sound so good on their own, or with effects, whatever you want to do with them. And I've just taken the piano chords, and funnily enough, I think I just took like some of the notes and just moved them. What I find is like close harmonies. When I say close harmonies, can you see how close these notes are all together? With voice, close harmonies just sound so warm and nice and mushy. Can you hear how just sound really nice. What I've done, and you can see this in the keys as well, is like, and Logic, I know you can do strumming in Logic, but it's not good like Fruity Loops. Like, it's just fiddly. Like, I can do it up here with the track Q-Flam, but I don't really like it. So I manually go in and I just change the position of some of the notes just to make it a little bit more natural. Sometimes I strum them out like this, and I move the odd note here and there, and like I just kind of do it till it sounds all right. It's not a science or an art or anything, but yeah, you know, it works. So together now, this is what we've got. Really taking shape. We're nearly there, in fact. Like, all that I wanted to add, and I think I hear this on a lot of top samples, a lot of Coop the Truth. I grabbed this frog atmosphere. It's called Forest Distant Frogs. Not sure where I got it from, maybe Splice, but if you listen to it, very low in the mix, it just sounds like you're in a forest. Just Foley, really. And these kind of sounds here can really bring together samples, you know, like subtly in the background. Again, you can put effects on, make them go from left to right, pan them around, do some distortion or whatever. But I just left it there quietly in the mix just to kind of do its thing and sit there nicely. And then a tiny little bit of percussion. I think all I've got in this is 2 snaps, literally. One, I put effects on and I pan to the left. And one dry snap I left completely dry, pan to the right, just for some variation. And again, the reverb of choice that I'm using on this snap is the good old Arturia Rev Spring 636. It's the whole sample now. Now what I did at the end was I slightly changed the same chords, but again, for a bit of variation, I dropped out the bass, so you've got no bass in there. And I just brought in, I think I might have pitched the choir up, changed the voicings on the choir a little bit, a bit of different processing on the high piano just to change it up. I like to keep variation, but I didn't really change much in the end of this sample. Normally I really change up the vibe, maybe change the chords up, but for this I thought that the chords were sitting nicely, just kept them as they were. Maybe changed some of the voicings and that was it, because I really just liked the way it was sitting. I muted out the percussion at the end, and kind of that was it. I felt that it kind of said what it needed to say. Again, it's important, I find, to always leave space and let the sample breathe, you know? Now let's quickly look at the mastering processing I've got. It looks like a lot, but it's not actually. Nothing's actually doing too much. So look, if I turn it all off now, you're going to hear. Still sounds good, everything sounds nice. Just mainly adding a bit of volume, tidying things up a little bit. So first thing I put on a little bit of gain, okay? You know, nothing to explain there. A linear phase EQ, just boost in a little bit of highs there. and a shelve on the top. Literally 1.7 dB there, 1.6 dB there. I just felt like kind of needed a little bit of brightening. This shaper box, where I'm actually side chaining the mid-range to the mid-highs of the sample, which again gives it a little bit of bounce, a little bit of breathing. Only at 43%, but I feel like it added something really nice. Now here comes the textural stuff. There we go. That just sounds, to me, 100 times better. It's weird, isn't it? I'm changing the key. You can just do a lot. Next, tiny bit of soothe. You can see it's just taking a little bit of the resonance out of certain areas. Tape plugin. I just whack this on all of my samples. Don't know whether it really does much, but I think it looks nice and the animation's nice if it ever loads. So this is again the soft tube tape on the B setting. Always use it. I think it sounds good. Gives me continuity across all my samples. Limiter. Is it doing much? You'll see maybe a 1 dB of gain reduction occasionally, but again, not much. I like L2. I know people don't like it, but you know, I've what can I say? I like it. And probably my most important plugin, and I can't stress the importance of this enough, is my reference plugin. So literally, I use this all the time. And I've got a whole load of samples in here from Coop the Truth, Nami. This is real secret sauce. If you stay till the end, I know it might not seem like a lot, but referencing your stuff against other, you know, some of the top sample makers is gold. Like you can see if your levels are all right, if you're kind of in that same ballpark. I just close my eyes and blindly listen and A/B. And if I'm sort of in that ballpark, then I know I've done the right kind of thing. Anyway, look guys, cop levels, the link for the free mini kit is on here, and if you want the paid kit, like, I would really appreciate it, but you know, no pressure. And I'm going to be doing loads more of these coming up.